This is the AWS Morning Brief Security Edition. AWS is fond of saying security is job zero. That means it's nobody in particular's job, which means it falls to the rest of us. Just the news you need to know, none of the fluff. Hello and welcome to Last Week in AWS Security Edition, the podcast. If you're in New York City proper, I hope to see you tonight at 7 p.m. at Vol de Nuit. If not, you'll be missed. Fun drink up there. For the rest of you, we're hiring an account exec at the Duckbill Group to handle media sales for this very podcast. Should you be the person who refers the successful candidate in, as determined via an advanced process called asking them, we'll give you a $3,000 US referral fee. Now, what happened last week in the security community? Nick Frechette has found an undocumented Amplify API and used it to leak AWS account IDs. While AWS states that account IDs aren't sensitive information, it should be up to the customer to decide whether or not to disclose them externally. AWS has declared this not a vulnerability, but also has disabled that API, so I guess you decide. And friend of the newsletter, Chris Farris, has started an AWS security consulting practice. I remember starting my AWS billing consultancy 6 years ago. He's in for a fun time. From the mouth of AWS horse comes a couple of things. Gain insights and knowledge at AWS Reinforce 2023. Reinforce is in Anaheim this year, conveniently located near Forward CloudSec if you happen to be attending that. I'll be missing both this year due to a prior engagement that day that's half a world away, but they're supposed to be good shows. And how to use Amazon GuardDuty and AWS WAF v2 to automatically block suspicious hosts, which is handy unless you're one of those suspicious hosts and suddenly can't figure out why your connection non-deterministically decides to stop working. Over in the security tools tips and tricks, we have a couple this week. Have you ever smacked into the InvalidClientTokenId? The security token included in the request as invalid error? It's maddening until you figure out the secret. And this post is mostly here for my future reference when I forget to enable a region and trip over it again. And someone is curating a repository of AWS customer breaches. This is the kind of thing I always wanted to exist for my S3 Bucket Negligence Awards, but now I don't have to maintain it. Sweet! And that's what happened last week in AWS security. If you've enjoyed this, please tell your friends about it and send them to lastweekinaws.com. Stay salty, friends. Thank you for listening to the AWS Morning Brief Security Edition. For the latest in AWS security that actually matters, please follow AWS Morning Brief on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or wherever the hell it is you find the dulcet tones of my voice, and be sure to sign up for the Last Week in AWS newsletter at lastweekinaws.com.